We do have the Federalist article. We do have Claudine Gay's registration from Harvard isn't a victory the right thinks it is. So a lot of people are celebrating the fact that Claudine Gay is now resigning from Harvard, but she is getting $900,000 as a goodbye gift. And she's also getting replaced by a person that's worse than her, but that's just the problem. That's where the problem just starts. See, the problem is much larger than Gay and demands the right to go about dismantling institutions like Harvard with whatever means available. That's what the Federalist says. Let's begin. News of Harvard's President Claudine Gay's registration on Tuesday prompted understandably celebration on the right and much deserved praise for journalists Christopher Rufo, Christopher Burnett, and Aaron Silberin, who exposed Gay as a serial plagiarist. No doubt, celebration is in order. Gay was, of course, not only a plagiarist, but a Hamas apologist who shrugged off rampant anti-Semitism on Harvard's campus in the wake of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israeli citizens. In a shocking congressional hearing last month about a spread of anti-Semitism on college campuses, Gay, along with MIT President Sally Kornborth, and former University of Pennsylvania President Liz Miguel, who was forced to resign shortly after the hearing, insisted that calling for the genocide of Jews does not necessarily constitute harassment and instead depends on the, quote, context. So yes, Gay is a toxic, racist, left-wing ideologic who was deservedly hounded out of her post as Harvard president. But let's be sober about what happened here and what wasn't and what hasn't. Gay's registration is a scalp, but not quite the victory some on the right think that it is. For one thing, Gay was forced out for not appealing moral insanity she displayed before Congress about anti-Semitism on campus. But because that notoriety exposed her academic work to closer scrutiny, it turns out she's an academic fraud. In her registration letter, however, Gay admitted to no wrongdoing and instead blamed her ouster on, quote, personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus. What's more, she appears to have resigned as president but retained her facility position despite her plagiarism, which shows you how seriously Harvard takes all of this. And she has no shortage of defenders step up on Tuesday after the news broke on her registration. Chief among them was another race hustler and shapeless grifter, Ibram X. Kennedy, who blamed, quote, racist mobs trying to, quote, topple all black people off of positions of power. Recall that Kennedy is himself under some scrutiny for the failure of his $40 million Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University, but nonetheless, not to be outdone, the greatest race hustler of all of them, Al Sharpton, declared that Gay's registration was a, quote, attack on, quote, every black woman in America. Mark Lumrant Hill, also a racist, insisted that the next president of Harvard, quote, must be a black person. On CNN, Matt Ergen turned himself into a meme on Tuesday saying, quote, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of, short of more like copying other people's writings about attribution. So it's all sloppy attribution than stealing anyone's ideas. Thanks for clearing that up, Matt. That's exactly why we are mad at them. We are mad at her, I should say. The stark reality is that Gay's registration will not change the fundamentals Harvard has no intention of blocking anyway, or backing away from. This is the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is the DEI ideology that propelled Gay to the president's office. Nor does Gay herself see anything wrong with the DE&I agenda as such. Indeed, during her tenure, first of dean of the facility and then briefly as president of Harvard, she built what Rufo called the DEI empire, creating a host of new programs and campus initiatives to impose a radical racist ideology on every facet of the university life. Following the death of George Floyd, an event that precipitated her eventual ascent to Harvard's presidency. She launched efforts to rename buildings and programs deemed racist, remove historical portraits of white men, and establish a sprawling DEI bureaucracy that, as Rufo put it, seeks to influence how students speak, think, and behave in relation to race. In Harvard, now going back and undo all of Gay's work on this front. After her disastrous performance before Congress last month, the university removed most of its DEI materials from its website. But do not hold your breath waiting for Harvard to abandon the work Gay pursued as dean and president. Why? Because of committed leftists. Defeat isn't an option. All reteach are tactical only. The overall mission distinguishing Western civilization remains the same. In other words, this is not about Gay or Kennedy or any other person or institution. The problem is nearly all of the academia, not just Ivy League schools like Harvard or Penn, but most schools, large and small, is rotten to its core, hollowed out by leftist ideologues who want to destroy Western civilization and transform society. Having achieved nearly perfect ideological homogeneity in academia, having eliminated conservative or right-leaning academics from their facility ranks, the left is using their institutions it has captured to revolutionize every aspect of our life. So I completely agree with that. It's just crazy that after all of this, after she's being exposed, after Harvard was being exposed, and all of academia was being exposed for being a big fraud that just does not want to teach kids anything actually important. They instead want to teach kids a particular agenda in which they graduate. They are just like the teachers that taught them. Instead of them admitting that they were wrong on every single faucet, they would instead just want to blame one person and then just have that one person resign and then act like the whole entire thing's better. No. Do not go to these colleges. We've been talking about not going to these big academic colleges forever because they push a particular agenda on anybody that goes. You will graduate and have a completely different ideology. You would have a completely different ideology than what you first went in when you first went into the college. So it changes your opinion on everything for the worse. It does not teach you good and proper liberal arts anymore, and it does not teach you anything that you need to get a job and be successful. It does not teach you any of that. So the fact that they're charging so much money just shows you the fact that all of these teachers are in all of these departments that they are creating just takes all of the money out of that slush fund that they have that money in, and none of that money actually goes towards the schools or goes towards the education of the schools in your kids' education that you're sending them to. It's not an accredited school anymore, and it has not been for years. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all of these schools, and I completely agree with this article.